Good evening and welcome. I am Maria, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting, and this is Pain to Power Leading with Love. We've got episode 20, which is going to be fire. I'm very excited. I got a really great guest here with us today. But before he comes on the stage, I was thinking about this idea of, pain to power leading with love and talking about leading. And recently, my boss was kind of giving a speech and talking about this idea of how we have to change our perception of what we think a leader is. And it's not about power, it's not about position, but it really is about who we are and how we guide others. And so, with that, I am leading with counter storytelling and taking the stories of others and bringing them to you. And all of my guests are leading in their many different ways. So today, I'm really excited to welcome Casey Gain McCullough, who is an author, a filmmaker, a journalist, a rapper, and also the chief creative officer at MBGE. And welcome, Casey.
Welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for having me to be on your platform.
And look, I gotta say a shout out because Casey, you are a veteran of the Ranters Network. I mean, you were here way before I was, so this is
Well,
more
Logic,
home
man.
to you.
before the Ranters Union, me and Logic was working. I always telling him, like, when podcasting started getting popping, that he definitely had a good voice for it. But I wasn't really. I should have expected it, but the organization, how he brings together communities, I'm really impressed by. And him just, that's a natural talent of his, bringing people together. So shout out to Logic.
Oh, for sure. Shout out to Logic. Like, he is amazing, a visionary, and yeah, he brings people together for sure. Actually, in fact, that's how he brought you and I together, which was awesome, right? Like, I have to say, Casey is an amazing host. I took my first trip to California ever, and Casey was really gracious in taking me around and showing me some places. We did some nightlife, we did some beach life, and it was all good and a great time and good company. So, I appreciate that, and that's why you're here, because I heard a little bit of your story, and I definitely want to capture it today and have more people know a little bit more about your story.
Right. Well, LA is crazy because I've only been out here 2 years, so it's nice to know I've been a good host, but I'm finally feeling at home out here, getting to know the lay of the land. So it's good to know that I can show people around it.
Yeah, no, definitely right. That's always a good thing, right? When you're new somewhere, but you get to be the one to show everybody around.
Right. And I have been going. I've been it's exciting to be in a new place. Like, I do all the tourist stuff that no one would ever do. Cause I went back to Boston recently, like after I was in LA and New York, and there was so much tourist stuff I've never done, even though I lived there for 20 years. And even in New York, some stuff that you just is there, but. So it's nice to get your way around cities.
Look, I live in Washington, D.C., right? And so I know that situation, because there's definitely a lot of places in this area where I'm discovering slowly as I go along, So that happens. That happens for sure. So actually, I want to kind of talk about a little bit of your upbringing, because you talked about Boston, and that's important in terms of your own upbringing. But before I do, I always ask everybody at the start of the show, because it's called Pain to Power. I'm always curious to know how everybody interprets that. So when you think of the idea of turning pain into power, what does that mean to you?
I think it could go a couple ways. I feel there's a saying, like, what doesn't hurt you makes you stronger. So I feel like a lot of people, through pain, that's the way you learn. Like, when you're a child, you learn not to do things or to avoid things because of pain, and you learn what to avoid, and also, to be cautious. And but also, I think with pain is also being able to empathize with other people and seeing other people in pain and trying to stop that, and also trying to stop, like, people. I think people will go through pains for different reasons, and obviously there's personal reasons, but like, people are also pained by what happens in the world, and we see this a lot on social media, where people see like a story that offends them or outrages them, and then in turn they can use it to make it go viral. And that's an example of power, because you can take the pain of reacting to something and then organize around that. So I think that's one way you can take pain and power in an organizational sense. And I think it's also important to really be able to emphasize with people. And if you don't feel like personal pain, it's harder to emphasize with, people. And in terms of power, if you want to help people out, which I think is the best use of power, it's important to emphasize with people. And I think, growing up, I did have a lot of privilege, but I think I also had, not maybe not enough pain to be like traumatic, but definitely enough to be able to empathize with a lot of people and people who might not have had privilege as I have. And I think that's kind of allowed me to be like a voice for people who might not necessarily have a voice because, for certain
Mm.
people, education, creativity, I've been able to have, a voice.
Yeah.
I've been able to write articles, to make video content, to make movies. I've been able to articulate my opinions through that, and I try and do that through other people's pains. And I grew up in the crack era, which was a very painful era for a lot of African Americans. Like I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, which isn't Boston, and it's a little different than Boston. It's right over the bridge, so like you have DC and the DMV. Or Prince George's, it's right outside, but it's still a city. It's not like a suburb, but it's a lot more like racially and economically diverse. So a lot of people, when they think of Boston, they think of like racism. So they think a lot of racism between the Irish and the blacks because a lot of the busing. But Cambridge is a little different. It's a little more tolerant. There's a lot more economic diversity too, not only racial diversity, but racial
Mm.
diversity. I think Boston is actually a racially diverse city. People really don't know that, but it's racially diverse. Like you'll have a black neighborhood next to a white neighborhood, next to a Vietnamese neighborhood, rather than where I'm from, Cambridge, where you have a black house next to a white house, next to a Puerto Rican house. Um, so I think really I think empathy is really important for me, and my personal pain is important. I deal with that, but I really feel like emphasizing with other people, becoming a voice for people, and I feel like entertainment, like making people laugh, like taking pain, like when I do
Mm.
music, a lot of it is making fun of things that are
Yeah.
actually painful, and I feel that's just kind of a power in humor to
Yeah.
kind of take pain and make it more digestible, make it more relatable, make it more where you can kind of make a political statement by through pain, and that's a way you can kind of use power through creativity. And I think a lot of creativity, a lot of like really good music, a lot of really good movies, poetry comes from pain, comes from
Yeah.
a personal struggle, and so that's a way power comes from pain as well.
No, I love that, and I think like you hit it like so well in terms of the idea of like empathy, right? Like that if we can feel pain, then we're able to feel other people's pain. Like so we have to have first that like understanding of pain of our own,
Right.
and then right like but it kind of brings me to the next thing because I was thinking about like just thinking of what I said earlier about the idea of leading, right? Like so that's a one way to lead is to lead through kind of humor, right? Like that's what you talked about, right? Like it's taking pain, turning it into power through through hitting people. I love the word you use, digestible, right? Like because it is
Right.
more digestible, right? Like because I think that's
Right.
the thing is that people are afraid of pain and they're sometimes afraid of power too, right? Because they can be overwhelming things, right? So to make it digestible is really important. But I was thinking about that like in terms of when you think of leadership, right? Like do you see it how do you see it? And I'm curious also to know, just as a man, because I think this is always an interesting question to have for men, right? Like when you think of a leader, what does that embody to you?
That's a tough question. It's weird because I don't see myself as like a traditional leader. I think there are like leaders and teachers and like scholars, and I would like to think if I am a leader, it's not just leading people following me doing what I say. I would hate that's not what I would like. But what I would like as a teacher would be like to provide people with the right information and to make people think for themselves. So I think you have a lot of like when you have like cult leaders, you have these people who they want you to think exactly how they think, never question them.
Mm.
And I think that's not the type of leadership style or teachership style that I would adopt. Like I want to be questioned and challenged. Like just like I don't want anyone to like blindly accept anyone. I think that's how we get like our division. That's how we get Republicans and Democrats because people just watch the news and they just kind of like they become followers and they let these people be their leaders and they don't question them. and that's not the type of leader I would like to be. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like there's stuff that goes on through generations. Like I feel like you have people who might be influential for their time, and God willing, I like to be influential like after I'm dead, with people still in it. And I think it's not too much about my opinion. I think a lot of stuff is just facts, and there's so many facts and so much history out there that's kind of been hidden, and it's not even
Mm-hmm.
like telling people how to think. It's like, yo, here's the information, and I think that's what's why we have a lot of division is people base their opinions on lies. So they base their like political views
Mm.
on like propaganda, and they're kind of forced into that. So like I'm trying to really break that cycle. And rather than having people think like me, which I think a lot of like religious leaders do, like I want you to be Muslim, I want you to be Christian, or a lot of cult leaders might be like, I want you to be down with my group. It's like I want you to think for yourself. I think one thing like Tupac
Mm.
said that shout out to Logic with Tupac shirt. He goes,
Yeah, yeah.
Tupac said that, and he obviously misunderstood himself. So he goes, "I'm not going to change the world," but obviously Tupac really changed the world. But he goes, "I will spark the mind of the person that does," and I think you can do both. Like, if you could really
Mm.
spark the next mind of the of these next leaders of the next generation to grow up like kind of unscathed by a lot of like the propaganda and negativity that's gone through forth in our generation. That I think that's the type of leadership I would like to embody or teachership. And I don't want people to be like me or worship me or think I'm that, but I do want people to learn from me and know that I'm an honest person who's giving you facts, who's giving you who does a lot of research, who works really hard for this, and is a smart, logical person who comes to good conclusions. And I'm ready to debate people on my beliefs.
I think you are always ready to debate. I have seen that, but with some really good content. Like you have good ideas and you have knowledge behind those debates. But I think that's like I love that you just said that in terms of like you want to lead for people to think for themselves, not to think like you, right? Like
Right,
and I think that's important because a lot of times when we talk about leadership, right, it is about just following. It's not about guiding, which I think is different, right? Like, so when you're guiding, it's like, here's the information. You
right,
do what
exactly.
you need to do with it, right? But be discerning, like, because maybe I don't have all the right information either, right? Like, this is just opening up your eyes to be like, you can think differently.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that's why like our country's dealing with like so much propaganda, and like leaders are like total lies. Like
mm,
it's a lot of theater, it's a lot of WWE, and people aren't thinking for themselves. They just want to be like part of like the tribe, so they want to be part of like the Democrats, or they want to be part of like the Republicans. They want to idolize Obama, or they want to idolize Trump, and they don't really want to hear anything that's outside of their narrative.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's probably like the problematic thing with leaders right now, right? Which is part of honestly why I have this show because I think for me it's like, there's some like misconceptions of what it is to lead, and I really think that like we need to change that narrative, right? So let's go back a little bit with you. Like you talked about growing up in Boston, right? But I want to know more about like, okay, so Casey is a kid. Like at
Right.
what point when Casey as a kid was like, you know what? I want to go a different direction, right? Like you clearly like don't follow one way, right? Like so when did you start to be like I question the things around me? And what was it that made you start questioning those things?
So it's interesting. Yeah, it wasn't really till later in life. Like I always wanted to do my own path. Like I was rapping from like age 7, 8, 9. I always adopted the creativity, but and I always definitely kind of questioned authority to a certain level. But I think I was still like a lot of people in terms of my mother escaped apartheid to come to America, so it was like I still had a vision of America as like a good place where they had slavery and Jim Crow, but there was progress, and I thought the Democrats were a good force. So for a long time, until I really started doing research for myself, I was on a common worldview that a lot of African Americans might be who vote Democrat, who have a progressive view. You kind of see the Republicans as the bad guys, the Democrats as the good guys, and so outside of that, that was my political view, and obviously I don't know. I do come from a creative family. My cousin on my father's side is a filmmaker. He wrote the movie The Harder They Come, and he also wrote and directed the
Mm.
movie Small Orange, which is like Jamaican classics. So that gave me a kind of vision where I could be creative, I could be a person who could stand out as a creative person and not only make a living but also go down in history, which hopefully will happen. And then on my mother's side, her sister was an actress who was in a popular English TV show. So like I always saw creativity as an option. My father gave me piano lessons. As a kid, I was real active. Like I had acting lessons, stuff like that. And then luckily enough for me, they had a program that this is like early '90s. I'm not to date myself, but when I was a teenager, that like facilitated rapping. So they was a performance troupe. So we were actually paid to rap around Cambridge, like senior citizens,
Oh,
youth
that's cool.
camps.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we would do concerts in parks and stuff like that. So I was getting paid to be creative from being a teenager, getting minimum wage or whatever to rap. So I always saw that as a possibility. But even though like in Boston there wasn't really big rappers coming out of there, but that was just always a dream of mine. After I realized like basketball wasn't gonna be my thing when I was still like 6 feet when I was 17.
All
Um,
right. But
so
so you took the creative route though, but like I mean, but you've taken the creative route in a lot of different ways, right? Like I realized as I was giving off your bio, I was like, oh, I left off educator, like
right,
I probably left off like actor, like I think I left off a lot of things on there that you've done, because there's so much, right? Like so you found a lot of different ways to take that creativity and
yeah,
channel
and
it.
some have made money and some have lost money, but I've definitely left my mark. But I think like beyond being creative, I think like just doing the research for the book, and I think you could think about like research and writing. There is a certain creative element to writing, but there's so much like just going on. That's so many great stories just going on that are like untold that like kind of tell themselves. So definitely doing that. Learning that, and definitely yeah. Music has always been
Mm.
such a powerful part of my life. From like, and I've been able to try doing reggae. Like I played the piano. I did a whole album of where I played live music. It didn't sell that well, but I did it. And then I've done my other music, which has sold better. I did some cheap recordings. So it's just really really blessed. I've been blessed to be creative, to have the
Yeah.
opportunity to be creative and to work with other creative people. What did the youth troop?
Oh,
I
what
had a
did the
song.
youth troop rap
No,
about
okay.
drugs and polluting?
No, no, no. My gangster friends had a song, "Stop Black on Black Crime," and they eventually one got deported, and the other he was like became a gang leader. But so they rapped about that. Then I had another friend who rapped about when Irish eyes are smiling, which was all about racial tension, which was really going on in the '90s. And then I had a song
Oh.
"Cases Up the Bat," which was just fun. I wasn't rapping about anything political. I was just like having fun at the time.
All
But
right.
everyone, but other people was rapping about like black on black crime and racial tensions.
That's
And so
interesting. So how did that go off for people? Like I'm just curious to know. Like that's
I
like
was lit.
kind of
I
an
was lit.
intense conversation to like be
Yo, I
rapping
felt
about with
bad
like
for them.
senior citizens.
I felt bad for them. Oh yeah, like senior citizens got down with it. Like the mentally disabled summer camps was definitely rocking. I had a chance. I had a song "Cases Up the Bat," which is a good, fun, energetic song. And I think some of my friends they felt they were like maybe forced to do the political stuff, but I wasn't even like I wasn't even thinking like political type rap back then. I got into it definitely eventually, but I was just all about having fun with rap. I was emulating like Bismarck,
Mm.
Slick Rick, Tribe Called Quest, and yeah, this was my teenage years. So I had Cases Up the Bat. I had a song called "Large." I'm living large like Marge from The Simpsons. So I had like little viral rap. I had little viral raps way before
All
the internet.
right.
Like I would just
Uh,
rap my raps to anybody, whoever, and then like my friends would like learn the lyrics and like people see me and
right,
like, hey, do
right.
this
Well,
rap, do that
you definitely got some viral raps, right? I mean, like I don't know how
rap.
many people in the audience know, right? But we got white girls. You got to tell the story of white girls before we get into the book.
All right. So I was actually a successful rapper a little bit before. I had a song called Liquor Land, which was a funny song, like exaggerating, like drinking and stuff. And I got a check. It was actually I got a check for $1,000. I felt like I was Jay-Z. I got a check for $1,000 for that song. So I thought I was good. So I reinvested that money into like pressing up more vinyl and recording more songs. And one of the songs I had the idea. I was like, all right, like Eminem was out at the time doing like funny rap. So there was like Ali G, and I was always inspired by humor and parody. Like some of my favorite movies are like Hollywood Shuffle, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and like I really enjoy like the old like Saturday Night Live when Eddie Murphy would do like the music stuff as James Brown, or when Living Color would do all their parodies, like
Yeah,
Mr. Ugly
yeah.
Man, White Baby. And even before that, I was a fan of like Weird Al Yankovic, and they had a show, the Dr. Demento show, which was all weird parody music. And even my father had this dude like Alan Sherman was all about like satire and parody. So I always enjoyed good satire and parody and humor music. So and I had a couple funny songs already, and I kind of did realize like I was trolling. Like I know like when you do a race and sex, people will get offended. You know what I mean? If you say like I like white girls, like black girls will get offended, white girls will get offended, pro black people are gonna get offended. And
Right,
but I
right.
feel if you could also do it right, and that's one thing I learned from like my comedic heroes, the Wayans brothers, Robert Townsend, is like how to be like to push the button a little bit and hit the line and still be funny.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I was thankfully most people got the joke, but when you do it with humor, race, and sex, there's always a chance. Like when you see with Chappelle, if you make jokes about transgender, like or anything that's like a sensitive subject, religion, race, sex,
It's
definitely
true.
risk kind of offending people, but you also can get a lot of good laughs out of people because people laugh about like sensitive subjects.
It's digestible,
Yeah.
right? Like
Make
that's
it
it.
digestible.
Like
Yeah,
you make
exactly.
it digestible and it's
Humor can
funny
make
and like and I think yeah, like it's it could have been right like really offensive I imagine right like but it's funny right like it just and it's paired with obviously the movie White Chicks which is hilarious so like the combination of it like it worked it definitely worked it's great
But it's a
humor
risk. It's a
but
risk. It's a risk you take, as a humorist. Even with the Monkey Gang movie, like some people we were trying to make a point. Logic and I, it was a satirical movie, but some people felt like we took the satire too far. You know what I'm saying? So it's always a risk when you.
So I don't know if our audience knows the Monkey Gang. So you got to talk a little bit about the Monkey Gang movie because I think again that goes back to me like everything is a through line. Like what I hear is that you're always trying to make some kind of commentary or statement
Right,
about society, but you're finding all these different ways to do it, right? Which
right.
is
So
dope.
Logic and I have been friends maybe a good 17 years now, 18 maybe. And I met him through like the industry scene, and then like also like being in Brooklyn. So eventually, I think I told him I had a job at Sobro, which was a South Bronx youth program, which was they gave me a pretty cool job. This was after like a little bit of my music money fizzled out, and I was like, I had a friend who was like a manager there, and I was like, I could teach kids about the music business. I could do this 'cause I had already taught math, I had already taught science, and then I had a rap career. So they let me do that, and I told Logic about that, and he's like, yeah, well, you know what I mean? He's like, I did all this youth organization and development work at BMCC through a streetwear small organization. So we wound up working together and hanging out, and then we would brainstorm about things to do, and we came up with that. We watched a lot of like DVDs. This was mid 2000s, and this is like pre-internet world star era where a lot of like the urban gangster hip hop content was being circulated through DVDs, like Smack DVD, Cocaine City DVD, Sub Zero DVD, and a lot of the stuff we see in hip hop right now with rappers flashing guns, dissing other rappers,
Mm-hmm.
that was going
Mm-hmm.
on the DVDs then, and it was really excessive, and it was kind of neat for satire. And I actually had interned for the Chris Rock show. That was like one of my first jobs out of college. So I worked with him in terms of doing a lot of satire, and he previously did CB4. So I felt like the new era might need a new satire. Logic agreed with me. Logic had like the most amazing network of funny, talented, creative people. So we made a movie called Monkey Gang, a mockumentary, and it did really well in like the film festival circuit. So Hollywood Black Film Festival, Roxbury Film Festival, Queens Film Festival, which is really dope because Logic is from Queens, Far Rockaway. I'm from Boston, so we both have film festivals in our hometown. And then out here in
Mm-hmm.
LA, which is my new town. Um,
Yeah.
we got out here, and I actually got to meet a lot of people and get to know the lay of the land from going to the film festival. So we did the film festival 2011, 11 years ago, but then we came back like the next year and 2 years and kept on networking and screening the movie. So
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, and you celebrated your 10th anniversary just last year, right?
yeah,
Like
this
that
last
was
year, so it's 11.
2021.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, and for those of you who haven't checked it out, you gotta go check it out, Monkey Gang. I don't know if I put it in the YouTube links, but I'm sure that Jack can put it in a link somewhere here.
Yep.
It's hilarious, but I think again, it's like it's making a statement about the state of things at the time, right? Like you're talking about some really serious things going on that impact society, that impact the way kids are seeing and viewing music and gangs and guns and drugs and like all of it, right? But like making it digestible. And then, it's funny. It's
Yeah,
funny, right? Because it's like it's so extreme that it you can't but help but recognize the like the that connection between what is it like art art
art
imitates
imitating
life,
life.
right?
Yeah,
Art imitating life, right? But that is again like a really cool facet of the different projects you've had. So but
right,
I want to go back, like, because I think you talked about, like, you said it a couple times, but I want to go into it a little bit more. Like, you talked about this idea of, like, you weren't political until later, right? Like,
right.
so what was it for you that ignited that, like, awareness of kind of like shifting from, I'm a good Democrat, I believe in everything that's being told to me, right, to
Right.
I'm questioning what's going on over here. I'm questioning the government. I'm questioning this history that I'm learning, right? Like, so what kind of led you in that direction?
Well, like I mean, growing up, like I would do the basic stuff. My parents would do. I would read the New York Times. I would watch Meet the Press on NBC, and I felt informed. You know what I mean? Um, so like I would, I voted for Clinton. I think that was my first time voting was for Bill Clinton in maybe '96 when I was 18, and then I think again I voted for Al Sharpton in the primaries. So I was definitely politically aware from reading a few books. There was Gary Webb, Dark Alliance, which was it was carried through the San Jose Mercury Times, and it was one of the first like viral, controversial articles about like the CIA selling crack. And I read the book, and that kind of helped form a little bit of a cynical worldview of mine. And there was another book called Black Mass, which was about Boston and this notorious gangster Whitey Bulger and his relationship with the FBI. So I'm very from there. I was very cynical naturally of like the CIA and the FBI, just
Mm-hmm.
as organizations who work with other criminal organizations. But I think my cynicism kind of waned. Like I'm biracial. Obama's biracial. He allegedly went to Columbia University. Like he was hip hop. So I was like a fanboy of his, and that's what actually got me into journalism. Because I was writing like go vote for Obama blogs for Hip Hop DX,
Mm.
and then a job actually opened up through a friend of mine at Radio One. They were launching a Black news website, and I already had, there was, and this was 2008 when Obama was running. I had writing experience, so I started working for News One, and I guess we were starting off. It was during the election, and then after that, it was Obama won, so celebrating the election, and then it was kind of like defending that. So I think that might have been like a step back from my cynicism, and
Mm.
and then it wasn't really till I started researching my book that I saw, wait a minute, like it's all a fraud. Like all these presidents are like set up by the CIA, working with the CIA. They all got dirt on them. None of them are good human beings at all, Obama included. And like
Mm.
the whole narrative where the Democrats are the good people trying to help black people and the Republicans are these evil right wing people is a false dichotomy because both parties are about oppressing black people and working class people and people of color
Mm.
all around the world. And they're both about that, and they're trying to divide and conquer you to get you to follow like one propaganda or the other, or get like really tribal, so that the people will never work together. So you always have a divided country. No one will ever come together and be like, hold up, these wars are crazy. Hold up, like why are the rich people so rich? Like hold up, why
Mm.
are so many homeless people? Like, why is there an opioid crisis? Why are people dying? Like, what are our leaders doing? And really taking a look outside of the lenses of Fox News or MSNBC which Fox will tell you the Democrats are the bad guys, Republicans are the good guys, and MSNBC will tell you that the Republicans are the bad guys and the Democrats are the good guys. And no one tells you they're all the bad guys. They're all really bad. When you do research, for me, like the JFK assassination was really, really a really big turning point for me of looking at American history.
Mm.
If if you take the kind of American propaganda view, like, all right, JFK was killed by a lone gunman, and then LBJ replaced him, and then boom, and it's like a little blip. But if you really look into what happened, JFK was killed by elements of his own government, including the CIA, including LBJ, including people whose legacies still went on to run the government today. You'll realize it was a coup, and that people among the American government decided that the American people can't decide who they want as a leader, and if they do decide to elect someone that we don't like, we'll just kill him, and then make sure from now on that
Mm.
every leader that we elect is under our thumb, and that we fully propagandize and divide and conquer Americans to that. So it was really doing the research for my book, and then doing more research on Obama, doing more research on Clinton, and I realized, hold up, it's not just Bush and the Republicans who are the bad CIA
Mm.
cocaine sellers. It's Clinton too. It's Obama doing horrible stuff with like Fast and Furious, harming the cartels in Mexico, which is basically the same thing as Iran Contra. Obama's drone striking, his invasion of Libya, his acceleration of the
Mm.
war in Syria. So it's once you stop looking at the lens of like MSNBC, CNN, or Fox, and you kind of realize and you see like the big picture, you see it's a two-headed monster, right? Like a lot of people
Mm.
they'll look on Fox and go, "Oh man, look at that Republican hero and the Democratic monster," and then other people say, "Oh, look at the Republican monster," and then when you spot out, you see a two-headed monster. That's the same person that has a donkey head and an elephant head, and it took
Mm.
half the people to saying Obama, half the people saying Trump, and propagandizes them and makes them hate each other. Meanwhile, they're friends. Like Rachel Maddow loves Tucker Carlson. She was great friends with Roger Ailes, who was the head of Fox News.
Damn, I didn't
And
know that.
yeah,
Wow.
if you watch the movie Bombshell, like you see what like a pervert Roger Ailes is, aside from his horrible right wing views, and then you see like, Rachel Maddow, supposedly a feminist, lesbian, like advocate for women, but she met with him every week for lunch. They discussed policy because they know their job is not to represent lesbians and working class white people. Their jobs are to divide and conquer people so that the rich people can run the show.
Whew, yeah. But so okay, so I think all that is truth though, right? But it's the truth that not everybody one is ready to hear and not everybody is willing to hear, right?
Right,
Like so those are like it's the hard truth that's not as digestible. But it's important. And so like I'm curious to know because as you're saying all that, like you're talking about the news and the news channels, right? But like it starts way before that though. Like those stories all start in our classrooms, don't they? Like they
right.
start in
History,
the
yeah,
history we're
history.
taught, right? Like
Right,
so that narrative of history is like entrenched in the way that we are raised in this country to believe in like one that there's like this two-party dynamic, right? And then that like that history was presidents doing good things for other countries,
right,
right? Like so I think like that and the CIA and FBI being the good guys, right? So all of that gets turned on its head, right? Like and I would say in many different places, but you did that definitely like in this book. Like I think the way that you have like exposed so many layers of government and the intertwinedness and like even just the impact in terms of like why like the driver in it all is really powerful. I know you talked about in your book that you started this like really with your essay in your thesis, right? On the eagle, the bear, and the lion.
right. That was my college thesis, and then I had an
Right.
article.
So tell me a little bit about that and how that then turned into the book for you.
Well, I Columbia was pretty cool. Like my first couple years, I had to take a lot of like assigned classes, but I got all rid of them. So my next 2 years, like I was able to really learn about and study what I wanted. So I took a class on hip hop, a class on jazz, class on reggae, and I took a political science class. And it was like, "What do you want to write about?" I was like, "Jamaica," because I loved Bob Marley. I was such a huge Bob Marley fan at the time. Like, as a teenager, I was just listening to Bob all day, and I wanted to learn more. Um, so my college thesis was, the eagle, the bear, and the lion. I guess Bob Marley was the lion, the eagle was America, and the bear was Russia. And it was basically from what materials I could ascertain from back then, like Bob Marley's novels, books at the Columbia Library, and this was when the internet was first becoming a thing. So I think it might have been like a 20-page thesis. And I wrote that. I wish I still could have it, but I can't find it. Um, then I left that alone, and then as I told you, I was a journalist again for News One, and I wasn't doing too much like anti-CIA stuff, but I did definitely remember a lot of the stuff about the CIA and the shower posse, and it gave me a chance to write about it when I was in News One, and then Dudus, the son of Lester Jim Brown Cope, the leader of the shower posse in the 70s, he was extradited to the U.S. and they like invaded Tivoli, and they 70s Tivoli Gardens, which is like a housing complex in Jamaica for poor people, and so they raided it, they killed people, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? Like, USA literally like started the cocaine trade in the shower posse, and now they're trying to. I understood them trying to get a criminal, but in the process of getting him, they were like destroying a lot of poor people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a real big news out of Jamaica, and I felt as a person of Jamaican heritage, I was covering it for News One, and then one article I had. And the article really went viral, like 5,000 shares, like in like a couple months. So then I had a friend, Paul Stewart. Once I left News One, he started a book company, and then he just, again, I'm really blessed to have like opportunities to like, what do you want to write about? What do you want to do? And then I was like, so y'all started a book company. I want you to write a book. He's like, okay. He's like, what do you want to write it on? I was like, why don't you write it on one of your articles? I was like, well, that was a great article. And then doing that research really kind of changed, because I knew about Jamaica, and a lot of the stuff that wasn't Jamaica I saw, and I really got down to the minutia of things. But I really learned about the history of America in terms of drug trafficking, not only Iran Contra, but going back to Vietnam with the heroin, going back to JFK assassination, going back to other coups in Guatemala, going back to like all the times they tried to kill Castro, finding out a lot of like history that, despite being a history buff, despite going to Columbia University, despite being a political science major, I never learned, because that's the type of history that's really hidden. And that's how I kind of had a passion for finding like hidden history now, because history is written by the winners or whoever, and then whoever controls the propaganda. And a lot of people like don't know, but a lot of movies you watch, TV shows you watch, are really influenced by the government, the CIA, to have you fit their worldview.
Yeah, there's a narrative, right? There's definitely a narrative that's trying to be established, and it shakes people's core to understand and see, like, I think that connection between the CIA and the FBI and other countries and what's going on, right? So
In our
I
name.
and so, like, for me, I'm always wondering, and I'm curious to know like what your thoughts are, but like, what's the connection between the power of people reading a book like this, right? Like, and understanding, like you said, the real history, and just existing in America. Like, what do you see as that connection of like what you hope your readers are going to kind of like take away from it and understanding beyond just this one incident, right?
Right. Yeah. And again, I think if people really understand it, it's not just Jamaica, it's Haiti, it's Guatemala, it's Honduras, and it's all these places that are being done in America's name. And I believe Americans are good people. Human beings are basically good people. But I feel like the path to power is one of corruption and evil. So good people get taken advantage of by bad leaders. And I think this is what happened in the United States. And that, we're giving all our tax dollars and our support for these politicians who do these horrible wars in public, and then in private, the CIA is doing those horrible things. And this is our country as Americans. This is, our tax dollars go to, and I really feel that it's our duty to kind of become the media. Like they always say, call the media the fourth estate after the judicial, legislative, presidential branch. The next unofficial branch is the media, and the media is really supposed to keep the government in check. But the media has been working for the government right? So the
Yeah.
media is supposed to work for the people to keep the government in check, but it's been working for the government to keep the people in check. So, like being a voice on that level and kind of realizing, like, working, because I worked in media, and it wasn't like I was getting fed like talking points from the White House, or I was being told what to do, but they only accept like a certain narrative. Like if I were to have started writing even deeper stuff about the CIA, or if I were to question Obama, like if you're a black person, you question Obama, like you're getting blackballed, because
Mm.
there's like Obama worship is very serious in the black news community, in the black media, because we need hero worship. We need this kind of first black hero
Mm.
president, rather than another bad president who happened to be black.
But hero worship is a really
So
dangerous,
big.
is
I mean, you seen
such
it with
a
Trump.
dangerous path,
So
though,
big.
right?
And I
Um,
didn't see it with Obama till now. Like, there's a lot of like bad stuff people just overlook. Because, he's a good looking, charming guy, good looking family, he had a good voice. But that's all. That doesn't really matter at all in terms of when you're bombing like little and killing kids, and giving guns to cartels, and killing pro black leaders and starting slave states.
well, and so the system is greater than the people, though, right?
Right.
Like, because that's it. Like, I think that's it with the leaders, is that they're all part of a system, and that's
Right.
kind of
Right.
like all the things you're exposing here in this book, right? It's the intertwined, interlocking systems that all come down to power
Yeah.
and economic control. But so, like, in thinking about that, though, I'm curious to know, because you mentioned this, right? But you said that your father is from Jamaica, so you grew up visiting Jamaica as a kid, right? And that's a perspective I imagine that like you have fond memories of.
Oh yeah.
But as you learned all these things, like, because I remember for myself, like when I started to like, I used to go to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has its own political history in different ways, right? And when I started to learn more about the history behind the politics of things, right, it kind of changed the way I saw everything around me when I go to Bangladesh, right? Like now I see poverty in a different way. Now I see the people and the way they're living and the way economics is functioning and the way the government is set up, right? Like, so how has like your own perception of what you've seen in Jamaica been impacted by understanding like these really deep seated, like political, entrenched, like, I mean, I don't want to call them conspiracies because they're truths, right? Like, but like the truths of history that were hidden.
Right. I mean, the truth is people conspire. It's not, I think because people have connected conspiracy theories to, so whenever they say there's a conspiracy, it's a lie. Like people, like
Mm.
they charge black kids with conspiracy all the time with RICO acts. RICO is, conspiracy charge. Um, but so growing up, I remember like going to Jamaica and seeing graffiti that said PNP or JLP, and those are
Mm.
the two big political parties of Jamaica. And like in the United States, you don't see people writing like Democrats, Republicans on graffiti. They might have a bumper sticker or anything, but I really didn't understand the dynamic, and it's just weird. And then like little things like electricity being out for like 4 hours a day, even in a really nice neighborhood where my grandparents lived, or just being like one channel or two channels on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like Jamaica was still like a really magical place. Like I didn't understand like the poverty. I just thought kids would run around in their underwear for fun. Like
And they were happy, probably, right? Like I know that that's what I've seen, right?
yeah, going to the beach, like playing with kids. It was just everyone's just kids. And until I was older, I got to see like the poverty and a lot of the class divisions too, because my family in
Mm.
Jamaica came from the country, poor, but moved to Kingston, and eventually moved uptown, which is like nice Kingston living. So there's definitely like class differences in Jamaica, which is like different than America, where you have Jamaica might be like 90% black, like 3-4% white, 3-4% Chinese, 2% Indian, rest mixed race. So you have the majority of people in Jamaica are black, and majority of people are also poor. Um,
Mm.
so realizing the kind of state of Jamaica and kind of American effect on it. Like there's a really good movie called Life and Debt, which is all about how the IMF and kind of American businesses exploited Jamaica. And that's one thing I noticed, like the rises of like all the Kentucky Fried Chicken and the American products, which also led to like a lot of Jamaican businesses not being able to sell stuff. A lot of Jamaican small patties businesses going out of business because people are going to KFC.
Mm. Yeah. No, but I appreciate that because that's a lens. I think like it's different like when you go from being a child and seeing something as a magical place to
Yeah,
seeing that impact of like corruption, right?
right.
And like you said, conspiracy, right? Like corruption and conspiracy, because it was, as you outline in your book, right? It's not just that America came in. I mean, there were people in Jamaica who accepted and were willing to be a part of this, right? Like the whole system to continue it going. Um, so your book is fascinating. Definitely go and pick up the book for those of you who see
Yeah,
it.
and hopefully there'll be something based on the book coming out in the next year that will be like big.
Nice. Are we talking film here? Maybe no. Okay, no spoilers. All right. Okay. Well, it'll be big, and we're gonna be looking forward to
Hopefully.
it. But before we go into some final questions and conversations here, I want to take a break. I am not an author, but I'm a blogger. So I don't know, Casey, if you've ever read any of my blogs, but I am. I have been writing now for. I guess it's been almost 3 years, maybe. And I write about my own story of pain to power. But so take a moment and you can check out this commercial of my writing and what ignited my pain to power journey. Hi, my name is Maria, but you are soon going to know me as Brown Girl Interrupting. And what I mean by that is that very soon, hopefully, you're going to be following my blog. I am a writer, and I started writing because I was married, I had children, and then my life changed when I separated, and I did a lot of learning and reflecting and growing in that process of change because change always leads us to that. And I've decided to share that with the rest of the world because sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing as you or understanding and putting words to the feelings and experiences we're having helps us to heal from them or grow from them or learn from them. And so that's what my blog is. It's writing about life, healing, relationships, parenting, dating, marriage, pain, love, mistakes, growth, and coming out whole still in all of it as a human, flawed, but always open to new things. So that's my life, that's my journey, and it's written in this blog. But my hope is that you are going to go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and join and subscribe to the blog and read all about my story to help you maybe gain some perspective on yours. Right. So definitely please go subscribe to the blog and check out my recent posts as well as some of the older posts. I have to say I've taken a little bit of a writer's block moment and haven't written a lot, but I definitely want you to go and check out. There are so many. I think there's about 52 posts there, so you definitely find something to read if you haven't read any of it yet. And it's about relationships and healing and parenting and just being a brown girl and what that has been for me, because that is my story and my narrative of how I am leading with love. So Casey, definitely go check out the blog if you haven't yet, and subscribe. Yes, and definitely subscribe. Go up to this website and subscribe, y'all. Put your email in so that you get all the latest updates and you get all the posts as they come out. So on this journey of creativity, of exposing, the controversies, exposing the conspiracies. What have you learned about yourself? Like as an individual, like what are some of the things that you've taken away that you've learned that either like have been like, "Oh, I'm really good at this." And I didn't realize that, and like some things that like, "Oh, this I'm not so great at," right? Like I've learned this about myself and this is something that I'm still working on.
I've learned a lot about basically how to communicate, and I think a lot of communication is like people really think like is based on I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Yankee fan, I'm a Red Sox fan. So it's all about like arguing, and it's not about even like winning the person over. It's about like
Mm.
winning the argument rather than that. And that's like not what I really want to do anymore. I don't want to talk because I was a big Obama Democrat guy, so I can understand why someone is caught up in a political box and might be susceptible to political brainwashing. So it's not. I don't want to like berate people for thinking that like how could you be a Trump supporter? How could you be an Obama supporter? Don't you know this? And no, they don't know that, you know, and it's not bad. It's very common. You know, black people,
Mm.
white people, people throughout history have been you know, brainwashed by leaders into doing horrible things. We've seen it in Nazi Germany. We've seen it during the slave trade. We've seen it in English colonialism. It's you know,
Yeah.
it's a kind of typical thing of uh, allowing the people to dehumanize other people, and then kind of you know then from there you allow the people to kind of be brainwashed into accepting genocide, nuclear warfare, Holocaust, slavery,
Mm.
um, whatever. So what I kind of learned about myself, and I've been a bit proud of myself, is you know not to berate and argue people. Don't make an adversarial thing. Like so, it's not me versus Democrats or Republicans. Maybe they're leaders, right? But I'm not like fighting against you know all the Nancy Pelosi, Hunter Biden supporting Democrats or Trump supporters at the same route. And I, I think one thing I've learned that is important if you do want to get your message across, especially in a world where there's so much brainwashing going on. It's all about you know kind of just presenting people with facts. And I do feel like once people do get the facts and do the research
Mm.
themselves, there's not too many conclusions you can come up with. Right, but if you're brainwashing, you're getting all your information from one side, or you're brainwashing all your information from the other
Mm.
side. You're gonna obviously come up with you know different conclusions. But if you're just looking at the facts, you realize like both both ways of political thinking in the United States are horrible. We need to find some new ones.
Yeah. But that's a big thing. I think presenting people with facts is important because that is what wins people over. And
Right.
I totally agree. Like I think that we are so often in debates when really we need dialogue because dialogue is when you hear each other and you actually talk across differences because we don't get anywhere. We don't get anywhere when we're debating because it's about winning. It's not about
Exactly.
actually hearing each other, right? And that is how we functioned and what allows for the gaps of people being able to be manipulated, right? Like being able to just be brainwashed is when there's no real coherence in
And I understand like
like
people have
different
jobs,
perspectives.
families. Like not everyone has time to do research, like 3 4 hours of research or watch old documentaries. So the easiest way for a lot of people to like you know find their political worldview is just to find a trusted newscaster like Rachel Maddow or Al Sharpton or Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, whoever, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna reflect their worldview. And there's so many distractions. Like
Right.
America has so many great distractions from politics, so many great movies, video games, sports. Like I can
Social
understand why
media.
a
Yeah.
lot of people just like, all right, well, politics is bullshit, so I'm just gonna play video games and watch sports, and then you know not vote or pay attention at all.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I will say I try to stay out of the fray of politics. That's not my thing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean,
It's not. But I will say, like, so if people are right, there's people watching. They're going to watch this rebroadcast. They're going to learn a lot about what you're saying. They're going to pick up this book, right? And now their brains are like, their light is ignited in seeing things differently and seeing the truth and wanting to know more history. What do you think is the best way to then start to expose yourself? Like, what would be your direction you would point people in to be like, try this, go read this, watch this, right? Like some easily digestible ways to expand your understanding of history a little bit more and current politics.
there's a really good he's not a podcast. He's an old radio journalist called Dave Emery, and he has a bunch of series um, on the JFK assassination, also on the CIA, military, and drugs. And these are very digestible. It's very NPR-ish. I think when people deal with like conspiracy, people think like Alex Jones and his
Mm.
angry rants, but this is the same type of journalism you're getting from NPR or the New York Times. So Dave Emery definitely open up your eyes. It's a really good book called Family of Secrets by Russ Baker about the Bush family, which also kind of tells the story of the United States. A bunch of really good books by a guy by the name of Dr. William Pepper, Dr. Pepper. But
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
actually the family for the Martin Luther King family, as well as the lawyer for James Earl Ray, the alleged assassin. He's written a lot of
Mm.
really good books, and there's been a few good documentaries on the assassination of MLK. And I think, in terms of understanding history, like the '60s and what was going on with the JFK assassination, assassination of MLK, assassination of RFK, assassination of Malcolm X. These are all kind of connected events that also
Mm-hmm.
connect to the Vietnam War and genocide in Indonesia and Cambodia and Laos and a lot of the narcotics traveling. So it's opening. It's definitely a process for me, and I would say this: it is entertaining, and just like if you think Game of Thrones or The Wire is interesting, like wait till you see what American history
What-
is made of. So not
wow,
only
yeah.
just not only informing yourself, but really finding like a good darkly entertaining true crime saga of like politics, corruption, betrayal, sex crimes, war crimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth, right? Art imitating life.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? Like it is the truth. Um, so well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on the show. So what's the next steps of people following you? And we didn't get a chance to talk about it all, but I know you've got MV Gen. Do you want to talk about that a little bit
Right. Oh, so
before we
MVGen
leave?
is a gift-based music video generator. So I also do a lot of cool stuff in technology. So I'm doing a lot of stuff with artificial intelligence and deep fake technology in terms of bringing it out. But basically, if you want a music video and you don't have a budget, you can go to MVGen and you type in whatever keywords you want for your music video. You want it hip hop, urban, funky, Hawaii, whatever. You type in whatever words from your song title, your lyrics, or whatever you would tell your video director to make the video, and then we'll find gifts that match your keywords and edit them to a music video. But we're doing a lot of other cool stuff. Hopefully, we'll talk about it later. So we'll see.
That's
But
very
definitely,
cool,
yeah,
very cool.
definitely Jen. And then,
And the link is in the YouTube description below, so make sure you check it out and go check out MV Gen, check out the book. The link for that is in there as well, and follow Casey on Instagram.
yep.
Um, and I got he's Mighty Casey, so you got Mighty Casey on
I think I'm
Instagram.
Casey Gain on Instagram. Casey Gain on Instagram.
Casey Gain on Instagram. Well, I think you have two.
And
There's
Mighty
Mighty
Casey
Casey,
Raps. Mighty
Mighty
Casey
Casey
Raps on
Raps,
Instagram. Yeah, that's my second.
and
But
and
Casey Gain is my
Casey.
everything Instagram.
Yeah,
Mighty Casey
yeah.
Rap is my rap Instagram. And I think I have an MB Gen Instagram. And then I also manage Mankind Music Academy, amazing musical group, and I collaborate with them from time to time. So
Nice.
definitely check out their music at mankindmusicacademy.com for really great, conscious, smart, edgy, hardcore hip hop.
Love it. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
know, we've been so into this conversation. I didn't get to notice the chat, but I know a lot of our Ranters fam showed up. I mean, you're Casey, so of course they came to see. And
Shout out to the
right,
Raiders.
like, so shout out to all the Ranters Union. I don't know if we want to throw some of those names back up there, Ja. We can shout out some of the folks who were in the chat. I know there were a few comments here. Jose Lagan, good friend of mine. Good evening, Delilah. That's a running joke. My voice is Delilah from I don't know if anybody knows that sound, but it's
Oh,
soft
shout out to
rock,
Kicking the
soft
Door.
music. Shout
Best
out to
curated hip
Kicking the
hop hour.
Door. What's up, J58? What's the vibes, BG and CG? I love it. Yes,
Yo, Jay.
welcome. Love having you here, Jay. What up,
Nancy.
Tennessee? What up? What up? For sure.
Okay.
Look, we got the folks. We got the folks here, which is nice. Yes. And thank you so much to Ja Logic, our producer, and of course the amazing man with the plan.
Big
Go
up
check
Logic.
out Monkey Gang, the mockumentary. You got stuff to read, stuff to watch. go and do it
Yep,
all,
yep,
and
yep,
then
yep.
be back
Hopefully stuff to
here.
listen to soon too, or listen to and watch, or
And
either
I
or.
love it. Stuff to listen to and watch for sure. And make sure that
Yeah.
you tune in again with me on Pain to Power Leading with Love next week at 9 o'clock on this channel, Brown Girl Interrupting, on the I Rant Network and on Better Minds Interrupting. And if you haven't done it yet, make sure you click the bell so that you are subscribed to me, you subscribe to the channel, and you follow and watch all our stuff. So thank you again, Casey. It was awesome to
Thank
spend the
you.
evening with you, and I
Thank you,
appreciate
Maria. Thank you,
you,
Logic. Thank you,
you
Linton.
joining us and sharing your story, man. And definitely go pick up the book. And we'll see you next week. Continue to lead with love and take your pain and turn it into power. And I will see you again next week.
My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.